We just have to deal with this.
You have to deal with the crisis.
Have to deal with that.
And
Yeah.
you had something fun planned. So that always makes it like even less fun when you're dealing with the
I know.
crisis.
And I hate being late. I hate it with a passion.
But you do it fashionably. So we still
That's
love
true.
you. But we're okay, so let's talk about oh my gosh, what are we talking about? Our bohemian friend, our
Yes.
traveling mom.
Nomad.
But basically I was thinking like what how am I gonna like lead into this? And I'm like, where in the world is Gaby? Do you guys remember where in the world is Waldo? Or
Oh,
is that
I thought you were going to
am I
say
too
Carmen
old?
San Diego. Where in the world is Carmen San Diego?
Where in the
I
world is
remember that
Gaby?
too. Yes.
So where are you? Like where are you right now?
Right now, I am in Mérida, Yucatan,
I love it.
and yeah, that's it.
I love how you say Yucatan. And you could also say like I'm in my closet.
I am in my closet. I found this and declared it mine.
Okay, so you how do I want to say this? You have like your main spot in Mexico in the Yucatan, right? Or you have like your maybe like your base?
Um.
Like would you say like your base
Okay, so
camp?
my base would be in Mexico City. So
Okay.
we have an apartment in Mexico City, which is ours. So that's where we keep everything, all of our clothes,
Mhm.
everything's there. Like important documents can all be found there. And then during the pandemic, my husband decided to buy a property and build.
And you guys are like flipping it. You guys are
We're
building
gonna
it and then
flip it.
flip it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that show. I love that one. What is it on
Which one? There's so many
HGTV?
of
I
them.
know there's so many. You're right. There's so many. Um,
It's crazy because I used to think those reality construction shows had all of this drama like added to it, by writers or something. And now I'm thinking, no, I think all of that drama is like part of it. Because
is-
every day there's like something new where there's like a crisis. And I'm like, seriously, we could make a reality show out of this.
I have to tell you, the picture of the giant lizard that got electrocuted in that was the biggest MF lizard that I've ever seen. We don't have lizards. I don't have those kinds of lizards. Like that was
And
a
it got
big one.
mummified, right? Like
Yes.
it looks like it's, yeah. Frankie,
So-
I didn't send it to you because I know you didn't
Yeah.
want to see it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Honestly, is that like that can't be the worst thing that's happened or like the most dramatic thing that's happened because you guys lost your power because the lizard got electrocuted in your electrical box, right? So you
Yeah.
guys lost power
We
for a
lost
while.
power
Yeah.
for a couple hours.
Mhm.
While they were trying to figure out what was going on, and then they opened the box and surprise.
We're having lizard for dinner. Ew.
Right?
You're welcome.
How'd this even get in here? Poor guy.
He was
Poor guy.
cold. He was cold.
He was cold.
So okay, so whenever we talk about you being a bohemian, traveling mom, and like we're like, where in the world is Gaby? Like,
Yeah.
how in the hell did you decide like you're just going to up and start traveling? Like I'm always so curious about this because it's like, do you know how hard for me it's really hard to travel, especially with kids. Like thinking about packing for myself and packing for my kids, and then like I don't even want to put my kids in the car to take them to go to the botanical gardens or to the zoo or someone's being pardon my French, but like an a-hole about something for like a 20-minute drive, so it's like, it's not an easy thing to do, so how did you guys be like, let's travel the world with a kid, like why?
I know it was pretty random. So we started traveling before we had Dante. Previous to Dante, we had traveled to Europe. We rented a car and we drove throughout Spain, and we went to Italy as well. And we also took a train to London and then flew to Israel.
So pre-kids or pre-kid?
Pre-kids.
Pre-kid. Yeah. Okay.
I guess our first big trip was to Brazil for the World Cup back in 2014.
That's so cool. Here's a little like side note. When Brazil played Portugal in the United States back in the late 1990s, we drove with a girlfriend of mine who happened to come on the podcast. Her name is Catherine Schottefer. We call her Kat. We got in the car, we skipped school, we drove down to downtown like Pontiac to the Silver Dome, and we snuck in to the game. She snuck in
No.
first and then went and got us tickets. And we were behind the goal, like rows up, and saw, was it Sweden and was it Portugal and Sweden? I can't remember. It was one of the, yeah, it was like that. But it was awesome. It was
That is
so
so
cool.
cool.
Yeah. It was like
That
a
is
really
so
great memory.
cool.
Anyway, so
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
fun. It's a fun experience. I couldn't imagine being like in Brazil going to.
It was really cool. The first game I went to, because my husband had already been there for like 15 days. I didn't go with him because I was working at that time. I was a teacher, and they didn't give me they didn't want to give me those days. But I caught up with him, and the first game we saw was Mexico, Brazil, and it was packed. I mean, the streets were packed. We didn't think we would be able to get to the stadium in time. And so we left a little early. And as we were driving, we saw the Mexican bus, like the Mexican team bus.
Yeah.
And so my husband drove behind it and like got really close to it. And so we managed to sneak into the stadium with the Mexican team.
To get in, to like park
To get in, to
Oh,
park.
nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. It was pretty awesome. We parked next to the military, actually, like in the military area.
I would be so anxious to travel. It's just, I mean, it was hard enough for me to get ready to go travel and meet you guys in Las Vegas, because obviously we all connected through voiceover training and voiceover, and we all met in Vegas because Frankie and I talked about this before on the podcast, and it was a lot of planning and getting ready and stress and anxiety. And I'm thinking to myself, like, all of a sudden, like, you're traveling, just you and your husband, Arturo. Did I say that correctly? Arturo, Arturo, Arturo.
Arturo,
Arturo.
English Arthur.
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 Arthur. And you're traveling as just grown-ups. That's hard enough. And then it's hard enough to just travel as an individual person, but then you add in, were you traveling and pregnant during your pregnancy?
I was pregnant in Spain and in Israel.
Okay. And he was obviously created while you were on the road, I'm assuming.
Yes. The beginning part of Spain.
And then you circled back around and had him in Spain? Or no, you were just pregnant in Spain?
I was just pregnant. But we wanted to get back into that life because we really enjoyed it. And we thought it was doable. And so randomly, my husband asks me one day, do you want to go back into it? Like, get into that life where we travel and take advantage of the fact that our son is a baby and that he doesn't have to pay like anything.
Yeah,
basically.
fees, yeah.
Any fees. And at first, I honestly, I was a little scared at first, just thinking like, oh my God, we're going to be traveling and with an infant and there's not going to be any stability. Like, what's going to happen with us? What's going to happen with him? How are we going to be able to like maneuver this? And, but at the end, after a lot of thinking about it and a lot of discussions and just going over it in my head a lot, we decided that we would go for it. So at 9 months, my son was 9 months old, we started to travel.
Where was the first place? Well, wait, so was there like something that sort of like triggered you guys to start traveling pre-kids too? Like, or, like, was there something, were you just drawn to like seeing things, or did you have like that itch to like see the world, or was there like something that, just
well, there was an event that happened in our lives that did push us to that moment.
Yeah.
Basically, we wanted to escape the reality that we were living at that moment, because before we started traveling, I got pregnant. And so I got to week 36 and then I had a stillborn.
Yeah.
And so it was just a lot, emotionally and psychologically, a lot was going on, and our families weren't really helping.
Yeah.
So as much as they wanted to support, they just weren't. So I had mentioned the idea to my husband of like, why don't we just get away? Let's just get away from everybody and just take a break and see what happens. And then we started to travel, and we really loved it.
Yeah. I feel like that is something everybody can relate to, especially with COVID. You know, everything that's happened in the last couple of years. I feel like when you have something traumatic happen, sometimes just taking a break and, you know, just getting out of Dodge and just sort of giving yourself like a minute to just do something different sort of just helps you to just reevaluate the situation and just gives you like a minute to just breathe, you know? And
Yeah.
that's got to be so difficult. I had a couple of losses. Well, I've had 3 children and I've had 7 pregnancies. I never got as far as is that into the pregnancies that I lost, but any length of pregnancy and loss is just devastating. But like also I feel like that is a pretty devastating thing to go through when you're like a mom and a woman, and it's just like a really hard and just like the as a couple, you know, and then your families too. So I'm sorry that you guys had to do that or go through that. But you guys have a beautiful son now and
Yeah,
he
we
travels with
do.
you guys. And I honestly like I find it so intriguing that you guys pick up, pack a bag, grab your son, and get on a jet and like go someplace across the world and you just it's like do you like throw darts at the map and you're like we're going there, you know? But
Wait,
go ahead.
no, I was gonna
We
say I would
yeah.
I want to get into the bag situation because one of the reasons why I have a difficult time traveling is because I need to take everything. Like
Right.
I mean, if you had seen all the things that I took to my 4 day trip, not even 4, it was like 3 days, you know,
I
like
can imagine. I mean, those boots were epic.
I mean the
And my
boots
first
alone took
thought
the whole
was
thing.
like, oh my God, how did he pack these? They
But
are
I need to pack so
amazing.
much. But I feel like in order for somebody to do what you do, you have to be like a pretty masterful like packer, right?
Totally.
Yeah, Pinterest became my best friend. So our first trip to France was in that sense hell because we
Mm.
took 4 luggages, like the big ones, and they were completely full. And I thought I needed to take everything. I mean, everything, right? Because it was our first trip. I was freaking out about us taking our son. So I wanted to take his toys. I needed to take, oh, by the way, at that around that time, well, my son didn't use the normal diapers, the disposable ones.
No.
Yeah,
And you traveled like that?
I wanted to have him wear the
The
echo diapers. So the ones made out of cloth that you have to wash, right?
oh my God. With
Yeah.
poop?
Yeah.
Oh my God. How do you even travel with that? I
She's so petrified.
I mean, I'm thinking like I wanted to after my first, I wanted to do G diapers, which was like sort of like one of the things where it was like they had the outside part and then you had like an insert that you could, you know, so it was like more biodegradable. I couldn't even do the cloth diapers. Like there's no way in hell. I'm thinking pregnancy, weight gain, you're swollen, you're traveling, you have cravings, you're in like weird places, like not your own bed. I'm like, oh my God, no. And then I'm also thinking with a kid, you're like, or an infant or like a 9-month-old and you start traveling and you're like breastfeeding and diaper changing and bottles and like binkies to toys. I mean, like, there's no way. I mean, there's just no way. I couldn't
You know,
even go to the freaking grocery store like at 9 months with my kid. Seriously, I couldn't. I was like in bed with the
he was
covers up.
pretty good with the breastfeeding. We kind of had to wean him off of it and then go straight to a cup.
Yeah.
Like he
Oh,
didn't even
really?
use bottles because he rejected them.
Oh,
He didn't
that's
want to. So it was pretty easy. Breastfeeding wasn't too bad. Um, but yeah, the packing, the first trip was a nightmare.
yeah.
So I did learn a lot from that experience.
So your first trip was to France. So that's what I
Yeah.
was going to ask you, your first trip. Like, okay, so I saw in all your pictures that you sent me, like some of the places I recognize, like San Francisco, because I've been, you know, I've been to the bridge and I saw the Eiffel Tower. I've never been to France before. You also had, I think, Germany and China. So the Great Wall of China. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you've been all over Asia, right? You've been all over.
Not I mean, there are a lot of countries that we're still missing, but
Yeah.
we have traveled to Japan, China, and South Korea.
Okay. And then, but there was a couple pictures where they looked like giant light posts. And I'm like, what in the hell? Where did she go? Like, what is that? I'm
Oh, okay.
yeah, I don't know.
I
You know,
think it's China.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
And then it was so cute. One of the pictures you showed of D, where he was like doing the scream picture.
Oh
So
yeah.
so that's what I was thinking. I mean, you not only go all over the world and you go to all these different cool places like France and Germany, and you've been to different places in Asia. Like, yeah, you just mentioned it, but I'm thinking your son has grown up traveling. And to me, it feels like a lot of work and really hard to do. But if you do it if you incorporate your kids into the lifestyle that you want for yourself, they grow up accustomed to that lifestyle, don't you think? And then that's
Yeah.
like the lifestyle that they know and love,
Yeah, that is completely true. And then every city we visited, we would always try to find some activity for him, like specifically for him, whether it be museums or like a class or something to stimulate kids. Um, and if there wasn't something on that day, we would just go out and walk through, around the city. And sometimes there would be musicians out in the street. I don't know if you saw the videos of the musicians playing. Because I sent you to, there was one.
There's a lot of I was a lot. I was like trying to go through them as fast as I could. And I was like, oh my God, there's so many. Like, I cannot believe how many places you guys have been to.
I didn't even know which pictures to send. I was like, I don't want to send too many, but then I can't miss these.
I'll see if I can share some of them, like some of the places, if I
Yeah,
get
yeah, yeah, yeah.
permission from you, like on the social media, on Instagram or Facebook. So like I'm thinking culture, food, community, people, language, arts. I mean, your child is literally, I
He's
mean,
been exposed to all of that. Yeah, all of
yeah,
it. Because like there was a museum in Japan that we took him to that was for kids. That is for kids. I think it's called the Wooden Toy Museum.
it
Don't
sounds
quote me
like
on that. I have to check that.
Mhm.
But
don't fact check her. Don't fact
right.
check.
But the women that were working there would constantly like talk to him throughout the whole day that we were there. And so he got a lot of stimulus from just listening to a different language. They didn't speak to him in English, they spoke to him in Japanese, which was amazing.
That's so cool. I mean, how
So
I
cool.
wouldn't be surprised if when he gets older, and he starts studying and he gets into like the older grades, that like what if he's just one day is like, I want to study, Japanese or Chinese, and you have to
Mhm.
wonder with that all of that being imprinted on his little brain, because
Mhm.
like kids have these brains that are just so absorbent,
Oh
and you
yeah.
have to
Especially at that
wonder.
age.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, right. And the food and the tastes and, I don't know, everything, people.
Mhm.
Um, God, that'd be so cool. Yeah. I mean,
Definitely. I mean, he's not a picky eater at all. He eats everything
That's
and
good.
anything because
That's
he
really
didn't
good.
really
Yeah.
have a choice. I mean, I couldn't take
Yeah.
any baby food, so I would just buy what was there. And in Japan, they have baby food, but it's Japanese food.
I don't know if
It's
I could
not
have done that.
something that I would cook because I don't know how to.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
so crazy. What is
yeah.
what is your most favorite place that you've been to? Maybe pre-kid and then maybe with kid.
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh,
There,
you're like
there,
everywhere.
everywhere. Every country has something special. Pre-kid Brazil was amazing. There are certain areas in Brazil that I love. There's a place in Brazil. It's called Florianopolis, and it's very beautiful. And they also have Cascadas de Iguaçu, which are these beautiful like waterfalls in
Cool.
Iguaçu. And in Spain, they have this monastery. It's called the Monasterio. Oh, I forgot. De Piedra, and it's near Zaragoza, and that is very beautiful too.
That's
It's kind of like a natural park, and there's a whole bunch of waterfalls, and you're in the middle of a forest. And the monastery isn't the monastery anymore. They turned it into a hotel, but it's beautiful. And then in Israel, there are so many specific sites in Israel, in the city of Jerusalem, that I was fascinated by. So I can't really pinpoint One.
No, that's a lot. Did you see the statue in Brazil? I think it was, I don't remember what it's called. It's like the
Yeah,
famous statue. Did you see that? It's like, I
I
think it's in
did.
the city center, right? So it's,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah,
On the,
I
it's near
forgot what it's
Pau de
called.
Açúcar, and we did go there.
Mm.
We went there on my birthday, actually.
That's so cool.
What is it
So,
called? Pan de azúcar? Is it sugar loaf, sugar bread, sugar something?
Not the statue, but the little, you know how they always have the little mountain behind
Mm-hmm.
him? That one,
Mm-hmm.
Pau de Açúcar.
so when you're traveling, like in my mind, I'm thinking like there's been a time when I was younger, my mom took me on a cruise, and I did a cruise. I was like 10, my brother was like 7 or 6 or 7 or something. And I got sick, like that's like the one thing I go to when I'm traveling. I'm like, oh, what if I get sick? And I ended up in like a tiny little cabin in a cruise ship. And, after a day or so, I was fine. And then I was able to join in all the activities. But do you ever get like worried? I mean, have you ever had anything devastating
Yeah,
happen
and
where you're like someplace
that
else
did
and
happen. That did happen. Before our trip, before we took Dante, we asked his doctor, his pediatrician, if it was okay,
yeah.
if we started to travel around the world. And he said, you know what, he's gonna get sick here. And if you're traveling, he's gonna get sick there. It doesn't matter. There are good doctors everywhere. If you need anything like specific, you can call me and if I know someone, I'll help you guys out. Like it's not a problem. So yeah, things happened. Like France, for example, the first apartment we rented was infested with fleas.
Oh my God.
So while we were resolving that issue with the landowner, we got attacked by fleas.
Oh
So
my
so did
God.
my son.
That is like the worst.
Mm.
I
That's
know.
like a biggest nightmare ever.
I had to put 2 chairs in the middle of the living room, and I would sleep on those 2 chairs and have my son on my chest so that the fleas couldn't get to him. It
Oh
was
my
horrible.
God.
Mm.
I
we
would have
we
been
ended
like,
up like getting out of there before we could resolve the problem with the land owner, because he didn't want to return our money. He didn't want to return the money to us, nor did he want to pay for what's it called, the extermination of the
yeah, to exterminate the fleas or
yeah
whatever. Yeah, because you need a bug bomb
exterminator.
it. Yeah, you need a bug bomb it. Oh my God, that's the worst.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
it
No,
was
thank you.
bad.
No,
It was
thank you.
bad. It was bad. It was bad. It was bad. But we eventually got it. Like everything got resolved and everything. Um,
Would have been like,
Russia.
take me to
My
a hotel
son.
now. But like,
Yeah, right.
get me to a hotel.
My
Stat.
son got sick in Russia too.
You went to
But
Russia?
I
Oh,
did for the other World Cup.
okay, because I was gonna say, I think I saw a picture that you sent me. I was like, I don't know where this is. I'm geographically challenged. This looks familiar. And
2018.
that's so cool. Were you
So it's safe to
following?
say you're a soccer fan,
I was gonna
right?
say,
My
are you
my husband is a
Okay.
complete soccer fan.
You
Yeah.
just okay.
okay? So
He's
were you
already planning the next one.
I was gonna say, like, are you specifically traveling by following the cups, or were you this just happened to come across the games, like at the places that you guys were
We
traveling?
were No, we were actually, where were we? We were in Germany before we traveled to Russia. And my husband was like,
Russia.
let's go. Let's go. Let's do this. I got the tickets. We're going. And so we took a train from Helsinki to Moscow.
Oh, I think I saw
Hmm.
I saw a picture. I think I saw a picture of that. By the way, now I'm starting to realize where you get all your million and one voices, because you are the voice gal. I mean, you've
Get
been to
from
like
experience.
right from experience. Like I'm
Yeah.
thinking that's so cool. What was your in Russia? Like what was that like? I mean, that's like a gigantic country.
That
You were
was
in
a
Moscow?
complete culture shock in some
Mm.
ways. Um, but it's beautiful, and the people there were amazing, and they were incredibly nice. And yeah, my son did get sick.
Yeah.
Oh, which was horrible. He got sick on the train. Um, and so yeah, yeah. But it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I don't regret that trip at all.
Do you ever not because of Russia, but did you ever feel like you got to a place and you were like, this is not what I was expecting, other than the flea infested, property that you stayed at, but like where you were kind of like, oh my God,
Yeah.
this is not what I signed up for. Get me the hell out of Dodge. Like this is, I
So
don't feel safe. Like this is like, I've got my son with me. Like I'm nervous.
more
No.
than feel safe, I think I didn't expect this. So in Russia, what they had offered was that if you had tickets for a game, you could travel on the train for free.
Okay.
The small writing is there are classes on the train. So you have first class, second class, and third class, and then you have like the economy. And that's the one that was free. So on
Okay.
the economy, now you have to remember Russia's distances are extremely long.
Yeah.
Like to get to one city to another, you usually have to spend the night on the train, a night or two.
Wow.
So those economy tickets, you were basically in this little train cart where they had bunk beds and everybody could see you. And everybody shared the same bathroom.
Wow.
And so my husband took a look at he went inside the cart, came back out, and he's like, no, we're not doing this. We're gonna go buy a ticket.
So you bought a ticket?
So we bought a ticket.
Yeah, because oh my
we
God,
didn't
no.
take the free one. No, I was still breastfeeding, and he was like, we are not doing this. We are
It's not
not doing
safe.
this. There's
Yeah.
no privacy at all. Everybody is like this close to each other.
So has COVID put a damper on your traveling, or put like a pin on,
It did,
yeah.
because we had a couple tickets that we had to cancel. We had our trip to Canada, which we had to cancel. It was for April 2020, and then we had a trip to Paris in July. And then we were also going to move back to Vegas in July, but then that completely changed.
Yeah, I know you were saying that. And then now you guys are not even going to be staying in Yucatan or Medea. I know I'm saying that wrong. You're going into an entirely different place. So I'm like curious, are you going to always keep your one like home base, your property or your
I
apartment or
think
condo?
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good investment. It's in a good area. So
It's like an apartment right in the city, right? Or it's like a
yeah.
condo or yeah.
Yeah, but it's in the part of the city which is kind of like New York. So if you have like a place there that that's yours, it's
Yeah.
always good to have because you can easily sell it.
I
Yeah, so I think that's still going to be our base, even if we move
and you're thinking about moving to an entirely different country.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys are heading to
Probably Spain. Yeah.
Probably.
Probably.
Probably. We have a trip in April coming up to Madrid, and we're gonna check it out. We're gonna see where we want to live, if it's doable, and if it is, then we're gonna move out to Spain.
I have to tell you, like when I went to Vegas, not only was it like a 6-month planning process and then a packing process, and I didn't nearly have to pack as much as Frankie did, but I definitely had to put some thought into it because Frankie put so much thought into his packing. But like I'm thinking, like I was in Vegas, and of course, like I had a great experience. I loved being there, but I mean, it's a lot. You're staying in a different, it's not your home, it's not your bed. You might be staying at a hotel. You're eating food at times and places that you're not accustomed to, and you're getting in and out of cars. I was definitely out of my comfort zone. I'm usually really I don't know, like I just like superstitious, and I just have like a routine, and I don't know, I think I would be nervous. And then like at the end of the trip I was like happy to go home just to be in my own bed. Do you ever have that feeling, or is it just because you guys are always on the move? And yeah.
When it started, after our first trip from France, I did have a bit of that feeling, but I came down to the fact, I came to realize that it's all about letting go. So letting go of, because I'm a control freak, right? And if I'm a control freak now, before the trips, I was a bigger control freak. So it's just about letting go and letting yourself go there and realizing that nothing happens. Like it's okay. And sure, it's not all like sunshine and rainbows, because when we
Shit
were in Asia,
happens.
for example, my my husband got a really big client who was constantly calling him, and he was constantly up all night working because of the time difference.
Yeah. Time zone math.
So
It's a bitch.
yeah. So he ended up
Yeah.
developing like this huge rash on his arm due to all the
Oh.
stress and the fact that he wasn't sleeping that well.
Right, because he was up 24 hours because he was experiencing traveling with you guys probably during the time that during the
Yeah.
day, and then he was working on the go. So let's talk about that really quickly because you guys had 9 to 5 jobs that were in offices prior to you really got started, right? And then you guys decided, and your husband found a career or started a business that would allow him to have the freedom to travel, correct?
So, well, he started his business back when he was 16 or 17,
Oh, wow.
but he was extremely dedicated to it. So he would be at his working from 7 till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And that's how he spent his 20s.
My God, yeah.
Just constantly working. And then he started letting go slowly. Like when we met, he was still going to the office, and it was kind of like an 8 to 5 job. He converted it into that. And me, yeah, I was a teacher. I had to be in at 7. I was out usually around 6 because teachers always get extra work at the end that nobody likes to talk about. And yeah, so for him it was very much letting go, as it was for me too.
Yeah. I feel like that's like a huge, just, I don't even know.
It's
That's like
scary.
huge,
It's scary to
right?
think about it, because before that, like, just even think the thought of it was like, oh man, no, I could never do that. Like, we could go for like a week or 2, a month tops. But more than that was just, it didn't seem like a possibility at that time.
So
But
go
all
ahead.
those
So,
barriers and all those, walls are really put up by you.
that's so true. Because when we were planning for our trip